Welcome back to episode 4 of the Family Table Podcast. Today we will be speaking about exposure and what we learned outside the classroom. Because many of you all know for some of the work that we've done in terms of our school, in terms of what we've done in business, and all those different things came from many different life lessons that is not really taught in school, but it's learned through experiences, it's learned through shared ideas, and it's learned through culture. So a lot of people think that school teaches you life, but the truth is exposure teaches you life. What is something that you've learned in the real world that school never could have taught you?
For me personally, it's to try not to go in with too many expectations, because I feel that it's important to prepare yourself to be open, to kind of take in things as they are and not with kind of the lens that you put on it before you get there.
I feel like that's something that's super important. A lot of people think that everything in life is going to be a textbook, but the reality is going out in the real world and actually presenting yourself in a specific manner can get you way further than you just going to get a specific grade in the class or you thinking that you know something. But it's about implementing the things that we see instead of just putting things into just ideas. Mm-hmm. That, what do you feel like is something that a lot of people might underestimate the value of in person, even though there's all this technology that you probably built from when you were a young age that still stands the test of time?
The one thing that I believe is that the classroom teaches you from a perspective with no change. When you're in the real world, in most instances, you have to learn to adjust to circumstances. Mm-hmm. For instance, from performing crime scenes, when you're learning in the books, you have certain standards that they teach you and procedures that you have to follow. However, in the real world, you have to take into consideration that, or in real life, or in a real situation, that there's changes. You may have the wind that's blowing, or you may have stormy weather. Those things you have to be able to learn to adjust to. So in the classroom, a lot of times that's not taught because in many instances they're not able to reproduce those scenarios where you'd have to be able to roll with a situation and make alterations and change.
Right. There's a lot of real interpersonal things that occur in different situations that a lot of things that might not be ethically considered or personally considered when you go to a lot of different textbook situations. They don't learn how to actually immerse yourself with different types of people or being able to understand different circumstances that's happening in the world, what's right, what's wrong, things like that. I feel like you have to get adjusted by you just being in different environments and exposed to more, because when people are only in a specific situation where they're around people that's similar to them or agree with them, it kind of excludes them from the reality of the world.
And on top of there being no real change or variation in a classroom setting, there's also no real risk. If you make a mistake in the classroom, you just keep going. You can even restart the scenario if you want. But in real life, there is no do-overs. So either you get it right the first time, or if you do make a mistake, you adjust.
Right. Because you might not get the next opportunity again that you might get with a job or some sort of relationship.
Right.
Or those small things that people don't consider.
Right. Because a lot of times there are no second chances in real life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's so key and important that you consider how you deal with individuals in the situations that you're in, because you may not have a do-over, mm-hmm. Or a start over, or let's try this again a different way.
Mm-hmm. Right. Exactly, because a textbook's not going to teach you how to interact with people to get the best result. So, yeah.
Right. I think that's super, super important. It's not about being the smartest, because being the smartest will not help you become successful alone. It's about relationships. It's about your personability. You can get straight A's every single day, but if you don't have the personable things that it takes for becoming successful, you will never be successful in the real world if you don't have those everyday things that people want to be connected with. They don't want to see a textbook. They want to see real, authentic connections. And that's how much people can trust you in order for you to do small things that you can be able to get big opportunities that come in your life. And that's the biggest thing that people understand if they want to become successful in 2026 and beyond. And my specific question to Cameron, your background in studying abroad in Spain, what does studying abroad or being in new environments teach you about different people that's different than you?
Really, like I said before, I don't like to go in with a whole lot of expectations. I want to really be able to immerse myself into this experience without any kind of lens or other factors that would affect kind of the information that I take in and how I perceive it.
And what ways do you think America's perspective and lens is flawed compared to the rest of the world?
Well, a lot of Americans feel like everyone else needs to adjust to their way of living. So, take language, for example. A lot of places, people expect others to speak English when they're around them because that's the only language they know. But for me personally, I feel like you should at least try and learn at least a little bit of the language, like how to introduce yourself, greet other people. It just shows that you took the initiative and that you are considering them in their homes.
What was your experience like in Spain from that perspective that you were adjusting to their language? How did they receive you from that standpoint?
For the most part, everyone was really welcoming. And even if it's not perfect, because nobody's going to be perfect, but it's just really appreciated.
Do you think there's a factor of you being an African American studying abroad in a different country? Is there any sort of conflict from colonialism and other aspects in terms of you being able to fit into that environment?
Well, of course I would stand out, but I don't feel like I experienced any really negative experiences while I was over there because of race.
And specifically to other people of color studying abroad, why is something like this not often pursued within our communities?
A lot of times it's not pursued because I feel going abroad is a big commitment. Mm-hmm. And when you're leaving for an extended period of time, you need to consider that you can't work. You can't get a job abroad depending on what type of visa you have. And it really, in a sense, it limits what opportunities you can take that you would have been able to if you were in the U.S. or if you were in your hometown.
And due to geopolitical risk, do you think it's better to live abroad in 2026 moving forward than opportunities in the United States?
I wouldn't necessarily say it's better or worse, but it's definitely something that you can consider if you have the chance or opportunity.
But again, that gives you, by having that experience and having the knowledge to speak another language, that opens up opportunities for you.
Absolutely.
Right. I think that's something that life textbooks don't teach you, especially about perspective, is that they only show the specific lens that we see within traditional media, within social media, within representation of people. It's important to understand that having these real life experiences can help people go outside of the environments and have an open mind in terms of them being more real with the reality of the world, instead of being able to be augmented by things like AI and social media algorithms that keep people on things that don't actually matter.
Well, the way I see it, what you learn in the classroom is just the foundation. Now, in order to actually become proficient in these skills, you need to actually go out and put yourself in the environment. You need to speak with the people.
Put it into to practice.
Right. Because you need to be able to navigate the flow of a conversation, an actual conversation, not structured practice or vocabulary.
Right.
You know, my experience from the crime scene perspective is when individuals find out that I perform those tasks. A lot of times they say, "Oh, well, I watched the TV show, the crime scene TV show. I could do that." But what they don't take into consideration is all the things in real life that you experience. You know, the sights, the smells, the sounds, all of those things at an actual scene. You know, would you be able to handle that? And they don't take that into consideration because, again, that's the difference between book knowledge and being in the actual experience and experiencing it firsthand.
Right. And a lot of people can't handle it because regardless of what situation it is, they don't mentally prepare themselves to be in that situation.
That's something I think that's super important. A lot of people are actually shocked at the reality of the world that people live in because we've been so much into a box and so much into a position of isolation from a country's perspective that people actually don't even know what the reality of the real world is, and the how tied in our own mindset and our own ideologies that they forget that the world is greater. And people who are not able to understand the global economy will not be successful in the next 10 to 20 years if they don't adjust to the time frame. It's important that people have that perspective of understand this is the global economy. And if you think that you're only going to become successful by just working with yourself and no one else, you'll never be successful.
From you all's personal experiences, do you feel that your mom and I have prepared you appropriately, or did we limit you or restrict you from doing things to be able to deal with situations in life?
I think the biggest thing our parents did to ensure our success is be able to expose us to more than what we've been in, to be able to show us that it's about being able to share different perspectives and be in different environments so that we're ensured that regardless of where we're at, we create measurable impact that can be created in whatever room we're in. And that's something that parents must expose their kids to different things in order for them to become successful in this new environment, because it creates that foundation of them being adjusting to different places and understanding that it's more than just their block, it's more than just their community, it's more than just their country. When you go to different places, you appreciate the smaller things that come with life and understand how much how much better you have it in a lot of different people and different ways that you can kind of adjust your life to be able to understand more of the world and the great things that it has to offer.
I feel like you did more of like a controlled exposure where you showed us things to allow us to be in new environments, to experience new things, but in a way that wouldn't detriment our lives or put us in a situation that would be hard to come back from. And I would say going after that, I've personally gotten older, I was able to differentiate certain things on what is something that I'm willing to experience to further my knowledge, further my education, but what's something that may seem good at the time, but through like wisdom of you, I was able to differentiate that's not something that I'm willing to take at the time.
Yeah, and I feel like the most important part of what y'all have done for us is allowing us to struggle. Because struggle is really what forces you to improve. It forces you to better yourself. If everything's always easy, people have the tendency to get complacent. They sit back and stay where they're comfortable.
Right.
Now, when you're challenged, it makes you think of a solution. And yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't think they made us struggle because we've never been in a situation to struggle. But
so there's a difference between making you struggle and allowing you to struggle.
I don't think they allowed us to struggle. I think they allowed us to be in conflicts to make sure that we can make a better decision, because we've been able to live a a lot of great things that we've been poured into us. So we've never been in a situation where we had to struggle, but they put us in a different situation where we had to think of how we can be able to solve this problem, solve this situation, so that we can be able to grow in whatever we're trying to solve.
You both touched on what we were trying to achieve. The thing is, from my experience, I've experienced how parents have controlled or tried to make decisions for their children. So what happens as the children grow up and become adults, they're unable to make decisions, or decide what they need to do. So what we tried to do was to put you in these situations and allow you to experience it, and then it's up to you to make the decision. Now in life, those are the things that you have to do on your own. So we didn't want it to be that you would be dependent on us for your entire life. We'll be there for you, but at some point you have to be able to make your own decisions. And by putting you in those situations where you have to make the decision, and whether it's right or wrong, whether it's good or bad, the repercussions are good or bad, then at least you've experienced it, and you won't have a problem with making that decision, because there's a lot of young people that have struggles with making decisions.
Yeah.
Well, how would you say it was for you to basically pull back from allowing us to experience it?
As a parent, is difficult, because you always worry about having your children be in situations that are difficult. But again, I understand, in life, because of the experiences that I had personally, that you're in situations that you have to be able to look and feel and observe those circumstances and those scenarios, and you have to be able to make a decision in quick time. In the classroom, you have minutes and hours.
Right.
But in serious situations, that it doesn't allow you that amount of time to make those decisions. So by allowing you all to experience these things, we're trying to let you all feel it and be able to make those decisions. Because again, people just have difficulty making decisions when they need to.
Right. I think the biggest thing that stops people from being successful is not being able to be decisive in their decisions. Because a lot of people think on their thoughts when they end up losing opportunities, because there's so much on things in the situation or things that might happen that they don't actually make decisions. And the indecision is what can lead to poverty, because of the aspect of you not able to be in the specific situation to move forward, whether that's financially, whether that's in a relationship, whether that's in education or taking opportunities. Because if you're not going to create some of the opportunities, someone else will. Mm-hmm. And those ideas where you say someone stole my idea, no, they didn't steal your idea. They just acted quicker than you did, and you sat on your ideas. And that's the thing that people need to understand, is that you have to be decisive if you want to become successful. You don't need more money. You don't need more resources. You don't need more opportunities. You need to make more decisions in your life so that you can ensure that your success is based off of you and what you control, not the opportunity of others. So my biggest thing for you all is, how do you feel like the biggest decision that you made in your life affected you in terms of where you're going to be today, in terms of you deciding you want to take your life seriously?
Well, I'd say the biggest decision for me was basically where I was going to college, because honestly, many people say that college is one of your biggest decisions, but it honestly changes the whole trajectory of you. So it determines who are you going to meet at your school, if you're going to be able to connect with this one person that will be able to get you the job of your dreams, compared to a different school that might seem good in the short term but not able to get you in the long term. So I would say what really helped me in that decision was to basically, I guess, figure out what my priorities were. So I was going to use sports as an opportunity to leverage my ability of education. So by going to using my I'll say my athletic skills to get on the Division 1 track team, I was able to get at a school that had great opportunities in itself, while having the neighboring community have opportunities to leverage the career that I desire to have.
Do you think it's overrated by people thinking that the school defines the person, or does the person define the school, regardless of what, to create the opportunities for success in their life?
Well, I feel like the person defines the school, because regardless of what school you go to, there will always be opportunities. I'm not saying that one school might not provide easier opportunities,
Right.
or have an opportunity where it might come quicker, but wherever you are, there's always an opportunity to get better, or to meet that one person that can get you where you need to get or
Right.
go.
And it might not just be about needing that one person, but being able to understand that the resource you have within yourself. Now, understanding that, of course, the world has never been equal, so we have to get that out of our mindset. The world was equal to start with. There's always different levels to what people are playing, but how can you make sure you use the opportunities and resources that you have in order for you to become successful? And I feel like that's the biggest thing that people think, is just that they're waiting for opportunities to come, but wherever you're at, you can create the opportunities. And that's how people with lesser resources can outpace people with more resources, because they're better utilizing the things that they have instead of focusing on the things they don't.
See, but that's a big struggle amongst many individuals, is battling procrastination.
Mm-hmm.
You know, procrastination, putting things off. You know, trying to wait until the perfect time. Is not always the perfect time, so you have to be able to act, you know, as soon as possible, because if you don't, then you're going to miss out on that opportunity.
Right. The worst thing you can do in your life is to think there's a perfect time, because there's never a perfect time.
Right.
The difference between the best time starting is right now, because if you focus on yesterday, you'll always be focused on the past, and you'll basically lose the opportunities you have in the future. The difference between billionaires and regular people is not because they know more people. It's not the difference between billionaires is not because they know more things, is because they're able to make quick decisions.
Okay.
They have different systems and different structures to help them be able to create systems that they can be able to utilize different things, and they make things instantly. They don't even focus about. They don't even know half their business half the time. They're just very passionate about what they do. They make quick decisions, and they're able to adjust on the fly. So explaining to a lot of different people, elaborate more, what does struggling mean to you in terms of things that you had to overcome growing up?
Well, I'd say in general, allowing your children or anyone to struggle means letting them work through their own issues. It means not just stepping in and saving them right away, and allowing them to work through these issues. It gives them the opportunity to come up with different solutions for it. If something doesn't work, they remember that, and they move on to the next thing, and the next thing if they have to. And once they figure it out, they'll be able to solve the problem on their own.
Right. I think that's something. Success is earned, is not given. So many different people in this society think that they want to get things handed to them. They want things to just automatically get it because other people have it. But they don't want to actually go and put the work in, go through the struggle, grow through the trials and tribulations, and actually go pick themselves back up so that they can go up the next day and become the best version of themselves. And understanding that that's not reality. You cannot get something for nothing. You have to be able to sacrifice in order for you to become further in what you're doing. Christian, in terms of you being a Division 1 athlete, what type of things do people underestimate as far as what it takes in order to become successful at that level?
Well, it really just takes discipline, like everything else. So when it comes to business, when it comes to doing your own thing, it's basically the same mindset. These people work just as hard as everyone else, if not harder, on what they do to allow them to do it. So they do the small stuff that trickulates to getting to bigger things.
And was there any sort of similarities that a lot of successful top Division 1 athletes see as far as their work ethic or some of their regimens they do, people that might be like LSU or like an SEC at the highest level of college athletics?
I would say a lot of people have the same core ideas, but I would say the things that make the difference between an LSU and I would say an average Division I school is the small critiques. So what I mean by that is that some programs, they have opportunities to, I would say, educate people's mentality, to help them with their mental health. They have little tools that help them maybe to recover maybe 5% faster. So it's all the small things that triculate to building up to bigger things.
Okay. And in terms of a lot of different people that might not have those access to resources, in what ways can they stay competitive in life?
Doing research, having mentors in their field, and have life coaches to be able to articulate what their biggest things that they need to work on for themselves and to really go after those things.
Okay. And that's something, what's the importance of having those different avenues of their life to be able to be functional as a high level person?
Well, I would say having different avenues to become a high level person is that you have to, let me see, what was the question again?
What is the most important thing about having different avenues of your life being allocated into your schedule or performance in order for you to become successful?
Well, it really just allows you to be a well-rounded person, to be a person that adapts to changes, be a person that adapts to trials, and to really be able to persevere about everything. Because when it comes to sports and when it comes to business, the two things they have both in common is that some people may not be able to control the outcome of it, but people can control the input of what they put in themselves, and then the output is really just a result of continual practice.
Mm-hmm.
So do you all think that the consistency is an important part of that, of the discipline? You know, being consistent in what you're doing and how you perform your activities?
Yes, consistency wins championships. While many people may decide to do the quick burst of, I would say, adrenaline to maybe do this hard workout one time, or to basically just put all their money into this one investment just in the short term, just spontaneously, they might get a good result or it might hurt them in the long run. But the thing that makes the really successful people, is the consistency.
Yes, consistency is the most important thing for success. It's one thing to be great one time, but you see a lot of the top athletes, from Kobe to LeBron to Michael Jordan, it's so easy to stay. A lot of people can stand up for one game. They can do well for one season, but the people that are truly successful can be great in all avenues of their life, regardless of the situation or whoever they go against. And it's kind of having, like, I know people say Kobe a Mamba mentality, that they will become successful no matter what. And a lot of people like to lower their standards because they might not be good or challenges come. But you have to have that level of intentionality in your desire for success in order to reach that. Because it's going to be earned, it's not going to be given. And the people who are consistent, who prepare themselves and position themselves over the course of time, will be the people that's more successful in the long run, regardless of if they weren't the smartest, or regardless if they didn't have the most money, or regardless if they didn't have the most resources. The people who have the consistent work ethic, the most consistent in what they do and being and persistent in all avenues of their life, will be the people that will be successful at the end of the day.
So by performing those actions, it builds confidence, and then by building that confidence, it seems like the activities that you're performing are easy, right? Because that consistency and that persistence, you're accustomed to doing it, and you're doing it, and it becomes first nature. you know, se- you know, you don't have to struggle to think about it. It just becomes natural.
Right.
Yeah. And I feel like, in terms of consistency, I feel like it's very important to be able to reproduce that success, regardless of the environment that you're in.
Right.
Because one-time success can be reduced to pretty much any factor, really. It could even be up to dumb luck. But being the ability to like reproduce and recreate that success is what really separates the ordinary from the elite.
Absolutely. And how do you feel like the difference between being talented and being prepared?
Being prepared means that you actively, you make an active effort to kind of evaluate the situation. And upon evaluating the situation, you can make more informed decisions. Being talented, you may have the skills, but they may not be the best course of action for the situation that you're in.
Absolutely. I think it's about being in the environment and being inside the mindset before you actually reach the destination. Because if you go and work and practice, you go and work in your life, when the big opportunities came, you're not going to struggle, you're not going to be phased because you've already been there mentally before you were there physically. So it's like for Tom Brady he was talking about, it's you practice so hard, it's not about people who take practice and days off. It's that it's only practice. But no, he treats every day like it's the Super Bowl. He treats every day like it's the opportunity that he desires to be at. So once he gets there, you see he's more posed, he's more focused, he's more prepared than anyone who might have been more talented than him, from being a 7th round pick to being the greatest quarterback of all time. And that doesn't come from just being the most talented. You've seen a lot of talented people who weren't prepared for the other aspects of life, whether that's starting a business or being in the situation where things come up or challenges. But the people who were prepared were the people who stood the test of time.
Well, I would say the difference between a talented person and a prepared person is a talented person does it until they are good at it, but a prepared person does it until they cannot fail at it.
But now, from my personal experience, I'll give you a scenario. When I was in high school, and I was on the football team. We played this team, and I mean, right at the beginning of the game, you know, we're going at it, and we run up to the line, and I observed the members of the other team, and they're breathing hard. And so I was like, we just started the game, you know, and they're already tired. So the difference between having talent is you having talent, you have the ability to do something, but being prepared is to where you prepare your body and your mind to deal with the obstacles that you face during that activity. So in that situation, they didn't prepare for it because they were already tired and we had just started the game. So from a mindset, we just blew them away at that point because they weren't prepared. They didn't make preparations for the game. You know, they may have been talented, but they didn't go out and work to perfect their ability. You know, just because you have the ability doesn't mean that you're capable of performing.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I believe preparation is more important than being talented.
Right. In terms of being talented, being disciplined in what you're doing, what do you think is the hardest part about being disciplined for someone that's young, coming up in whatever they're doing?
I feel like the hardest thing in terms of staying disciplined while you're young is it's really avoiding the temptation to kind of take the easy road. Because a lot of times there is an easier way to do something, but chances are it's not going to yield as good a result as it would if you were to take let's say, the more difficult route, but you'd be more thorough.
What about you, Christian?
Let's see. I can come back to it.
Okay. Yeah, I think the hardest part about being disciplined or an overachiever is that you have to understand that have your specific path and that you shouldn't never lower your standards for other people who think lower than you. And that even though you might not have the most popularity, you might not have the biggest biggest at what you're doing yet, but understanding that one day you'll get there if you work hard enough and you believe enough, and that your actions and your abilities and your belief in yourself reflects the ideas that you say you're going to do it. If you first you have to tell yourself that you're going to do it. Second, you have to think that you're going to do it, and after you're actually going to have those habits, and then those habits over the course of time will become who you actually are. And I feel like people have to go from just going from their thoughts to actually living it. And when you have that consistency, you have that thing that you're building, like you said, it's going to build resilience. And once you build that resilience, you'll continue to go and build more and more each and every day till you one day reach it. And understanding that your life is not linear on what your path might be in terms of what you think. That all it takes is one small opportunity that can change people's life. You can go 2 or 3, 5, 10, 20, 30 years and not have any success. But you might reach that one opportunity on that 6 month, that 2 years, that 20th year that can change your life tremendously. And so many people are discouraged by the fact that they don't reach the success in a matter of days, months, or weeks, or even years, that they discourage themselves on what the true opportunity that they can reach if they reach their full potential based off of just being consistent.
Well, I'd say that is the hardest part about being disciplined when you're young, is that you don't see the fruit of it necessarily, because some people may lack the wisdom to obtain the goal that they have. But that's where, like we reiterate, having the discipline and having the faith to just continue pushing on even though you don't see the fruit or see the result, and you just continue going about your faith, that it will eventually come in due time.
Yes, but a lot of people say they have faith, but they don't actually put the action of what their faith actually is. Mm-hmm. People have faith in certain things, but if you don't actually go and use actionable steps, so yes, I want to be a millionaire, but what ways are you going to actually put into action to becoming a millionaire? Because if you go and say it, a dream without action is just a wish.
Faith without works is dead, is what you're saying. So again, you just have to be willing, because from my personal experience, I'm accustomed to people underestimating me. Throughout my life, people have underestimated me. Oh, well, you're too small, or whatever characteristic they want to look as being a negative. To me, that was a drive. So I went out there and outworked everybody. Whether it was athletics or whether it was on the job. Just like you guys, and I've told you over the years, I would put you up against anybody because your work ethic is stronger than most of the people that's around you. Again, they could have more talent, but you're still better at the task because of your ability and your drive. So again, they're just dependent on the talent. But they're not making working on the preparation.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's something that's super important, because you look at a lot of wealthy or successful individuals, and you look at even family dynamics. Typically, the first generation is what makes the money, builds the wealth. The second generation is what typically spends the wealth, and then the third generation is the one that usually loses the wealth. And that's the reason why that happens is because a lot of very successful people come from a lot of tough backgrounds. They had that resilience, they had that toughness, they had the experience and desire to have more, whether they're an immigrant coming to a new country, or they're someone that came from a lower class, or they came from the hood, or they came from hardships coming up. So they had that resilience to be able to create the opportunity for themselves. And then they have kids who typically live off the fruits that their parents had, and they don't have that same level of work, that same work ethic. They're comfortable. And when they become comfortable, they just become consumers in this country. They want to spend the things without getting to work to get there. And then the third generation, they're looking off of their parents who just never had that will and that desire, and they do have the same tendencies from them. They don't have to work harder, so they just literally live off of their energy, but they end up losing the money from 2 generations before because they never built that foundation and willpower that people desire to have. So even when people do have money, they do have opportunities, and they have people they pass it down to, they have to integrate the mindset. And that's something that can stand regardless of where you're at, because the money can come and go, but if you have that capacity, you can make it back every single time.
Yes, sir.
And my next thing I want to speak on is, how did you feel like, in terms of perspectives, that we grew up in this society of consumerism, of things that are popular? What do you feel like that you notice about how other people spend money versus how we prepared ourselves in this environment in order for us to move forward in what we're doing?
Well, I noticed that many people bought off of their emotions. So people purchased things off of how they felt in the day, something that they saw they instantly liked, and since they had the resources, they bought it. And that's what a lot of people can get in the habit of. And even for the people who don't necessarily have the same amount of money, they still have the same tendencies, whether it's they feel sad, so then they buy McDonald's, or they want to spend more on a restaurant because they feel a certain emotion. But the things that our dad and our parents taught us is that to not buy off of emotion, it's okay to feel what you feel, but you have to decipher the truth of the matter, and to really buy off of, is this something that I want to invest in myself in, or is this something that is an asset to me in my future?
I feel like it's more so people confuse what they feel like they need versus what they actually need. Like Christian said, a lot of people tend to buy emotionally. It's okay to have things you enjoy, and it's okay to feel your emotions, but you can't let those things take over your life. You can't let them take over your decision making. So it's important to be able to stay rational.
What do you think about that, Cole?
Yeah, I think it's something that people would have to actually understand what they actually need in their life, and a lot of things that they have are just a want. You look at the 5 hierarchy of needs, it's 5 levels of needs. Is from psychological needs, things like survival, food, air, water, shelter, sleep. Number 2 is safety and needs, security for self, resources, health, employment, property, stability. 3, love and belonging needs, social needs like friendship, intimacy, family, and sense of connection or community. Esteem needs, desire for self, respect, and recognition, status, in others. And then 5, self-actualization needs is reaching one's full potential, creativity, morality, and personal growth. A lot of people think of just having the needs in terms of what they want consumer-wise, in terms of what they want in terms of different perspectives, but they really don't look into the other avenues of life outside of money. They look at more of a sense of purpose, look at a sense of your health, a sense of belonging, a sense of community. These are other avenues that people need to understand, that those are things that you need in order to become well-rounded as an individual. And it's not about, no matter how much money you have, no matter how many things that you buy, if you don't have the well-rounded avenues of your life, you will never be fulfilled in what you're doing, and you will never reach your fullest potential unless you prioritize other avenues of your life and think that your life is prioritized by how big of a house you have or how big of a car you have.
But do you think that that mentality comes from individuals wanting others to look at them at a certain level or a certain way, or is it a mixture of that, or them not understanding what's the difference between something needed or something wanted?
I think that some people are broke not because they don't make enough, but because some people are broke because they've never seen better. and they understand that they don't even want this for themselves, but they want this for the approval for others. And when all you see throughout social media, within music, within society and pop culture, we're always projected to think that you have certain things, that's what true success actually means. Being able to have the latest designer clothes. I need to have it because everyone else has it. I need to go and do this, talk like this or walk like this or be like this because everybody else is doing this. But people don't understand that a lot of these different things are constructed for different people to be consumers, so these companies can make billions of dollars off of our own consciousness, lack of consciousness in ourselves. And the biggest thing that you can understand is that you have the power of your individuality and the power of knowing a sense of self, a sense of purpose, a sense of belonging, that you realize that a lot of these different things you don't even need in your life, and that you'll be way better if you ever find a sense of purpose, find a sense of other things, and you realize that you'll be more fulfilled. And it's not about for other people, but first understanding what you want for yourself. And that's the biggest thing I think people need to understand in terms of everything, because people will come and go, but one thing that will never stay is truly you living for you. And I think that's something that people can live their life doing the things in terms of alignment with who they want to become. Their life will be way more fulfilling.
So how have you all handled that situation of trying to manipulate and work through those issues of trying to go out and obtain things that are not really necessary, on the pretenses of having people look at you as being a certain way or a certain level?
I think for me, first understanding that there's no one who's going to be more successful than you talk down to you. And just finding myself around people who always support in alignment with where I'm going, because of course your network is your net worth. And I found out if I'm around people that don't think like that, I just found people who are more aligned with myself. And the biggest thing is just understanding that, yes, of course you can have great things now, but I think a lot more people need to look beyond today and look more into tomorrow. And the more I emphasize of me attacking and working each and every day, that a lot more opportunities, a lot more great things happened in my life because I didn't focus about what other people thought, but I focused on what I wanted for myself.
Yes, sir.
And I feel like there's a lot of noise that kind of clouds people's minds and what they're doing, that it kind of strays them away from the realities of their life that they could truly live in terms of just where they want to go.
See, but I from my experience, I've observed a lot of people with material things, and what they do is they go out and they put it out there to let people see it, and that's their drive, is to show that and display that, to have people think of them as being wealthy or rich or popular or whatever characteristic they want them to believe they have, And what I've always tried to explain to you guys is that just because you have those items don't make you any special or better than anybody else. Mm-hmm. And just because you have it doesn't mean that you have to go out there and display it. And it's like putting it in people's faces, saying, "Hey, I got this," and you don't have it. So you have to avoid being in that situation. When you're obtaining, assets or other things. Don't go out there to try to display it, to try to make other folks feel like they're less than you.
Right. The biggest thing is, majority of those people you see online that have designer clothes, have big cars, and all these vacations are broke. Majority of those people are portraying the image or facade of who they actually are. And the people that truly build wealth are the people that are capitalizing off of everyone else's ignorance of trying to fit in, but the people that's behind the scene who own the ecosystem. Majority of people that buy Louis Vuitton are just making the people that own the stock go up higher. But the real thing is, we're trying to buy cars and clothes and things to look of companies we don't even own. While the people that own these different people are getting tax deductions off of these cars. They're going on these vacations strategically to help them grow their business. While we're trying to look in the car to impress, they're looking at this car to decrease their tax bracket. That's a whole different conversation to start with.
Yes, sir.
So it's all about perspective and how you can understand how the system works, so you're not someone who's always a victim or someone who's always not being able to take ability of the opportunities that come in front of us.
I would say my faith is something that really keeps me out, I would say, from like wanting and like desiring all these things, because I would say without it I would be a person that I would be like an insecure person that would want to show all these things for, I would say, to appear as a knowledgeable person, to appear as a good person. But it really just allows me to stay grounded in the fact that I don't do it for my own appearance, but I do it so that I can have like a honorable, I do what I do so I can have like an honorable stance to be able to empathize with people and to talk from a perspective where I'm not higher than you, but to talk from a perspective where I can truly get the message across as like a person that's like respected.
That sounds like an appropriate name for you, Christian, but by the way you express yourself there, young man.
For me, I feel like it's having confidence in both your ability and your preparation. Because there are going to be people that disagree with you, regardless of what you say or what you do. But being able to stand by your decisions and continue along the path that you set out for yourself is something that it doesn't make you better than other people, but it does set you apart. And people seeing that confidence, it sets you as an example.
So it's based off what you're doing and not what you're saying.
Right.
Okay.
And for the biggest thing before we end this episode, what do you feel like our dad's discipline look like in our lives that we live today? Because a lot of people, they learn stuff from their parents, where people can either be similar to their parents or they can be the complete opposite of their parents. And I think based off of what we're doing, we have a lot of similarities in some avenues. So what do you feel like is the biggest thing that dad taught to us that you think helped you to become the person you are today?
I feel like a really big thing that he taught us is there are going to be things that you don't want to do, but you have to, you end up doing it because it will benefit you and everyone around you, everyone you have close to you. So it's really a matter of just doing what you have to do, not seeing it as an emotional decision, but thinking about the future, thinking about what's ahead of you.
I would say the same thing, of how he really taught us to really take care of business, but even outside of taking care of business is to not do it out of like a grudging heart or do it because, oh, I have to or I'm obligated to do it, but to do it from a perspective of this is what will set me up for the future that I want, the future that I desire for my family, and something that really teaches us how to operate as men who don't think in the current time but think for the future.
Yes, I think the biggest thing my dad taught me is that stop talking about it and just be about it. A lot of people want to just say what they want to do, and I usually talk about what I want to do, but I emphasize and or important of actually doing the things that I'm saying and backing up the things that you say. Because a lot of people talk, but most people don't actually put the work in. And oftentimes the most people who are the most successful or the most powerful are the people that speak the less, and their work is shown by what they've done in their actions over the course of time, and their consistency, which their actions speak louder than their words. And that's what helped me become tremendously successful at what I'm doing, is because of that foundation I had in terms of just speaking less and doing more. And those things continue to override all the stuff that that might have not helped me get there, but helped me become who I am today in terms of my success. And Dad, what would you say from your wisdom to other people as far as just being able to, they might not know where they're going to be, or they might be in a situation where they don't think they can overcome it. What things can they do today in order for them to just get out of maybe a state of survival or a place where they don't know if they can get out of something?
The biggest thing that I would suggest is like you said, don't talk about it. Go out there and get it done. Most people they complain about things, and while they're complaining, they're not able to perform whatever they need to perform, because they're focusing on the negative thing. Same thing is as if you as an individual you focus on what somebody else is doing. If you're focusing on what that other individual is doing, you can't focus on what you have to do. So my thing is if you want to be successful, you have to focus on what you have to perform, not worry about what anybody else is saying, what anybody else is doing. You just go out and do it. You know, when your mom and I had you all, first thing people say, oh man, triplets, you know, that's got to be difficult. Hey, I'm not going to complain about it. I'm just going to deal with it. That's just life. So the thing is, don't dread about it. You know, don't talk about the things that are negative about it. You know, because again, that takes away from your action of actually performing the action to get things done. So my biggest thing is to go out and get it done. Don't complain about it. Don't talk about it. Just get it done. Because once you get it done, other people will talk about the positive things that you've done, and that's how other individuals will learn about it, because other people are talking about it. It's not necessary for you to talk about it, because they already know that you're capable and able to do the things that you're able to do, because you've shown it throughout your life, and by doing that, that'll be your reputation. So nobody from outside can come and say anything negative about you, because people know what you're about, and that you're about getting the business done.
Absolutely. And that's super important, that everything that you do, be about it. And we're going to continue to share that through our work that we're doing, about how we can change our communities, how we can impact the world, and showcase more perspectives within our communities. And with that being said, make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to share this to your friends and family. Let us know in the comment section what you thought of this episode, so we can provide more resources if you want to work with us. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at The Family Table Show, and partner with us for future events, future collaborations, and more. And with that being said, you all have an amazing day, and we will see you all next week.
We love you, Bears.
See?
Yes.